One of the most urgent tasks for our country is to decisively defeat the climate hysteria hoax.
We are in the beginning of a mass extinction.
The ability of CO2 to do the heavy work of creating a climate catastrophe is almost nil at this point.
The price of oil has been artificially elevated to the point of insanity.
That's not how you power a modern industrial system.
The ultimate goal of this renewable energy, plan is to reach the exact same point that we're at now.
You know who's tried that? Germany. 7 straight days of no wind for Germany. Their factories are shutting down.
They really do act like weather didn't happen prior to 1910.
Today is Friday.
That's right, Greta. It is Friday, and this is the best day of the week. Not just because the weekend is almost here, but because this is the day the Heartland Institute broadcasts the Climate Realism Show. My name is Jim Lakely. I'm your host and Executive Vice President of the Heartland Institute. We are an organization that has been around for 42 years. We are known as the leading global think tank pushing back on climate alarmism. Heartland and this show bring you the data, the science, the truth that counters the climate alarmist narrative you've been fed every single day of your life. There is nothing else quite like the Climate Realism Show streaming anywhere, so I hope you will bring friends with you to view this live stream from all around the world every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And also like, share, and subscribe, and be sure to leave your comments underneath this video, especially about what we're going to be talking about today. These all convince YouTube's very mysterious algorithm to smile upon this program, and that gets the show in front of even more people. And as a reminder, because big tech and the legacy media are not huge fans of the way we cover climate and energy on this program, Heartland's YouTube channel has been demonetized. So if you want to help this program, and I really hope you do, please visit heartland.org/TCRS. That's heartland.org/TCRS. And you can help other friends of this program bring it to the world every single week. And as always, we want to thank our streaming partners that help expand the reach of this program. JunkScience.com, CFACT, What's Up With That, the CO2 Coalition, and our friends at Heartland UK Europe. We have a very big show today, so let's get started. We have with us, as usual, Anthony Watts, Senior Fellow at the Heartland Institute and publisher of the world's most viewed website on climate change, What's Up With That? We have Sterling Burnett, the Archbishop of Canterbury, whose day job is the director of the Arthur B. Robinson Center on Climate and Environmental Policy at the Heartland Institute. We have Linnea Lueken, Senior Fellow for Energy and Environmental Policy at Heartland. And we have producers Andy Singer and Silas Centurion Pearson working behind the scenes to make sure the show flows great. And joining us today, we are so happy to have him for the first time on his program, Danish scientist Henrik Svensmark. Until very recently, he was employed for a long time by the Technical University of Denmark, where he studied the effects of cosmic rays and cloud formation, how that affects the climate. But he was recently relieved of his position, which is something we're going to talk to him about today. Welcome, Dr. Svensmark.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I hope it's not too painful to talk to you about this, but I think it's an important thing to talk about. And I know that you have many friends that view this show, and of course also at the Heartland Institute. But before we get started with all of that, I want to do a little pitch for everybody watching this program today. The Heartland Institute, we are a nonprofit 501c3 organization, and every year we have an annual benefit dinner so that we can help support this organization. And this year we're having it in Chicago on Thursdays, September 3rd, 2026, at the Palmer House Hotel in Chicago. And our keynote speaker is none other than Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. He could be president one day, who knows? But he is, without a doubt, America's most effective conservative governor. I cannot wait to see and meet Ron DeSantis, and I hope you share that excitement and will join us in this very special night on September 3rd. You can get your tickets at benefit.heartland.org. You can also just go to heartland.org, our website, and the very first feature on there features Ron DeSantis. You can click on that and learn more information and get tickets. We really hope to see you there. It's a great way to support Heartland and freedom overall, and to show your appreciation for one of the best governors in America. All right. Hope to see you there. All right. Without further ado, let's start, as we do every program, with the crazy climate news of the week. Hit it, Andy. Bill Nye, who I'm sure still has his job. He shouldn't. Anyway, we've titled this first one, "Why Was Svensmark Fired?" And we've learned about this, I think, actually, the first heard about this, I think, just before coming on the air last week. So we're very happy to have Henrik on today to talk about this. But this is truly crazy climate news, to be honest. But before we get to Dr. Svensmark, I want to read a little bit of background so that our audience kind of is up to speed on what's happening. And this comes from What's Up With That from our friends at Clintel. So I'll read a bit for you. Something unusual and encouraging has happened in Danish climate journalism. Berlingske, one of Denmark's leading national daily newspapers, has published an excellent and genuinely inquisitive article about the dismissal of physicist Henrik Svensmark from the Technical University of Denmark, DTU, where he has been working since the late 1990s. Here's how that article starts. He is one of Denmark's most internationally recognized researchers, and at the same time, one of the most controversial. But now, space and climate researcher Henrik Svensmark has, in his own words, been, quote, good old-fashioned fired by his employer, the Technical University of Denmark, in Lyngby. He does not rule out that, quote, political considerations, as he puts it, were involved in the years-long process that led to his final dismissal. At the same time, Henrik Svensmark does not hesitate to call it, quote, a death blow to a branch of research that he has largely developed single-handedly, and that climate researchers around the world, including the UN's climate panel, IPCC, have had to relate to, often reluctantly. This is mainly because Svensmark's research points to what he sees as an overlooked natural factor behind a large part of the climate changes Earth has undergone. He does not rule out that the dismissal may be linked to the fact that he is perceived as a controversial researcher in wide circles. Quote, there is nothing controversial about the research itself, but it is true that many perceive my research as controversial, even though it shouldn't be, unquote. DTU has no comments on the actual dismissal of Svensmark and refers to it as a personnel matter. However, the director of DTU Space, Henning Schrijver, confirms that Svensmark's overarching research area, atmospheric physics, will now, quote, be significantly down prioritized. Henrik, okay, you were quoted in that article. We'd love for you to take this opportunity to explain maybe your career at DTU and why you think that you were sacked, maybe not out of the blue, but finally.
Yeah, I think as everybody, I mean, and they talk about my research, they always say that it's controversial. But the research I've been doing, there's nothing controversial in the way we do the science. It's a completely standard way of doing science. But it has been seen as controversial. And already when it started in 1996, and it was the first time presented at a conference in Birmingham, it gave an enormous backlash from media because they saw it as a big, a big problem for CO2 if solar activity could be important for climate change. And I think ever since that time, I have been, as a dissent to this climate idea, and that CO2 is the main driver. So it has been quite an uphill battle all the years in order to do the research. And the thing is, and in order to do the research, you have to have funding, and getting funding. Nowadays, when you write a proposal, it got sent out to other scientists, and it's mainly other climate scientists. And most climate scientists don't think that anything else than CO2 is important for climate change. So over the years, I've had resistance of all kinds. In the beginning, I got a grant from the Carlsberg Foundation, the beer company. It's very prestigious to get this funding. But I was told from the foundation that, research leaders had asked the foundation to revoke my funding. They didn't do it, but I could continue. Later, when I was given a professorship in, I think it was 2016, the rector at that time, he got a number of scientists saying that they shouldn't hire me and have a professorship in that subject. And later, when I was up for a different kind of professorship, there was a new rector, and he simply cancelled the position. So, as you can see, that there's been so many times that there has been resistance of various kind. And in 2021, they tried to fire me the first time, but I actually got support letters from Linson and Will Haber and a few other scientists. So for some reason, it was cancelled, the firing. So I wasn't really surprised when it happened again this year. And the very strange thing is that I had a meeting with the local management, and they were very, very happy about my work, and said that it was extremely important, and I should have support of some kind from the university. And then 2 months later, I'm told by the same people that now they are going to fire me. And the whole idea was that it had to do with that some project in the institute had used too much money. It had nothing to do with my research. So they had a lack of money, but the argument is really poor, because since 2021, they took away my salary. So I didn't have a salary from the university, only a very marginal amount of money I got from the university. And I had to find my own funding from private, actually from private people that helped me. So I haven't been very expensive for the university over this time. But now they told me that there was a strategic, they had to do some new strategic saying that they didn't want to have very much atmospheric science anymore. So what's going on behind the scenes, I don't know, but I can just see that it's just been a long, it's just been, there has been so much resistance all the time. So it's nothing new that this is, I'm not really surprised that it happened.
They could have you for free, but they still didn't want you there. It seems pretty clear that there was another agenda afoot. A lot of our listeners are really into the science of climate change and are very familiar with a lot of the work that people have done. You were one of the most prestigious scientists in the world working on the effect of cosmic rays on the Earth's climate. I wonder if you can explain for our audience a little bit more about your experiments and your theories on the effect of cosmic rays on the climate.
Yeah, that's really the very interesting, and that's the only reason that I have been continuing, even there's been so much resistance. The whole idea is that, constantly the atmosphere is penetrated by what we call cosmic rays. So if you could see cosmic rays, you would be able to see like it was raining all the time. And these particles, they are ionizing the atmosphere. And the idea is that this ionization, it actually stabilizes small molecular clusters in the atmosphere. And these small molecular clusters, when they're stable, they have a chance to grow and become cloud condensation nuclei. And cloud condensation nuclei, they are, what we call aerosols on the order of 50 nanometer. So they're so small you cannot see them with the naked eye. But if air is being elevated and cools, it might get supersaturated. And when it gets supersaturated on the order of 1%, it needs a surface for the water vapor to condense onto. And that is what these small particles are providing. So if you change the number of cloud condensation nuclei, you are changing the number of cloud droplets in a cloud, and by changing that, you are changing the optical properties of clouds, and especially the reflections of sunlight. So if you have more cloud condensation nuclei, you get a wider cloud, and therefore you get more reflection of sunlight out. So the idea is that cosmic rays, if you change the cosmic rays, and solar activity is one thing that can change the amount of cosmic rays which come from outside our solar system, then you can modulate the cloud cover, and modulating the cloud cover, you change the energy budget of the Earth. And I mean, that was the idea we had, and one of the things that were quite important in the beginning was try to find evidence for this, and especially with everything well defined, we could do experiments. So I built a laboratory in Denmark together with my co-workers, and we made some of the first experiments where we had atmospheric conditions, and we could see that if we increase the ionization in an experimental volume, we could see that we increase the number of these small aerosols. And later we did experiments where we showed that not just are cosmic rays producing these small aerosols, they are also actually making the aerosols grow faster, which is extremely important because that makes the probability of surviving to become cloud condensation nuclei much larger. So it means that there is experimentally we could see a link from the cosmic rays to the formation of cloud condensation nuclei. So when we came, I mean, these data came out, first experiments were about 2007, I think, and immediately people were saying that, well, I mean, maybe it works in your under these experimental conditions, but in the real atmosphere, there's so many aerosols already, so this process that I'm talking about will not do any difference. But fortunately, you can actually observe these things directly in the atmosphere, because at certain events you have what we call Forbus decreases. It's when the sun has an explosion called the coronal mass ejection. It throws out some plasma, and this plasma, it actually can screen against cosmic rays. So if it hits the Earth, you can all of a sudden within a week have a drop in the cosmic rays, maybe up to 30%. And that is almost like a natural experiment with the whole atmosphere. So when these things are happening, you can then look at a satellite data of aerosols, of clouds, and then various cloud parameters, and you can actually see that there is a beautiful reaction in the clouds. And we can also look at the Earth's energy budget at the same time. And we can see that when we have changes in the cosmic rays corresponding to a solar cycle or something like that, we actually get about 1.5 watt per square meter change between solar maximum and solar minimum. And 1.5 watt is actually quite large. And it fits beautifully with observations of how much energy goes into the oceans during a solar cycle. You can see that from changes in temperature or changes in the ocean heat content, or even the elevation of the ocean surface because of the expansions of the oceans. All of these independent way of looking at the energy that goes in and out of the oceans over a solar cycle fits beautifully with this idea. So this effect seems to be extremely important. Another thing which is completely independent of solar activity is that when we look at over millions of years, we can have enormous changes in cosmic rays, and that has to do with star formation around our solar system. Because cosmic rays are actually produced when mainly produced when large stars explode. It gives a shock front, and that accelerate particles to enormous energies, and that's what we call the cosmic rays. So when the solar system is moving around the galaxy, it comes in and out of regions where you have more or less star formation. That is, you have more or less cosmic rays. And the changes is on the order of 300%. It's something that Nir Shaviv has shown. He's an Israeli astrophysicist. And when you look at these changes, they fit beautifully with periods when you have glaciations in the Earth's history. And when you are between spiral arms, you have a very, very warm climate. That's because you have very little cosmic rays. So everything seems to be fitting very, very beautifully. And the latest work over a number of years is that the climate changes are so big that they actually have an effect on the conditions of life. And that's something that you can see some correlations between the amount of for instance, the amount of organic material in sediments over the last 500 million years. It is following the changes in cosmic rays in a completely remarkable way. So, and it's completely independent of this idea where it is solar activity that is changing things. So, I mean, with that, let me just end by saying that things seem to be converging in a beautiful way, and we have a consistency with these ideas that is extremely nice. What we really would like to do, and what was about to set up just before I got fired, was to put the whole thing into a large climate model, and then try to run it where we had this mechanism that affect clouds, and then also having CO2 and greenhouse gases, and then see how important is these things together.
So your theory is intriguing, and I want to say I remember back when I was in high school and I made a cloud chamber to visualize cosmic rays and other forms of radiation, and it was fascinating watching all of the different cosmic rays zip through. Most people are completely unaware of cosmic rays and how many there are zipping through your body right now.
Yes.
And it just, if you did know, you would probably be concerned. But the matter of fact is that it's been with us for millions of years, as Henrik points out. And so we have adapted to it. Interestingly enough, when we first started going to space with satellites and interplanetary probes and so forth, cosmic rays were a real problem, especially with some of the early memory chips. And in fact, the Voyager spacecraft, I believe, had a failure last year because one of its memory cells died, which could have been due to interaction with a cosmic ray. So with so many cosmic rays going through the atmosphere, saying that they would have no effect on perhaps cloud cover would really be saying, well, you know, that's just kind of silly because it's part of our environment. And so as the Earth goes through its different periods of rotation, going through, different alignments and so forth, the amount of cosmic rays waxes and wanes. And so it's not a static thing, just like climate, it's not static. So the idea here is that, yes, you can see cosmic rays in a cloud chamber. They create a nuclei that things condense on in a cloud chamber. So the same thing must be happening in the atmosphere. And that's why this theory is so intriguing. But I do want to say, trying to do atmospheric chemistry experiments is one of the most difficult parts of meteorology because you're confined to a laboratory environment, not the real world environment for this stuff. So it's very difficult to do. So I'm not at all surprised that it's been difficult for you to actually nail this down completely.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's also when I was in high school, that was the cloud chamber that actually inspired me to, work along these lines. So that's a similar experience. I mean, in the cloud chamber, you have a supersaturation of vapors, which is, 300 to 400%, and it's alcohol vapors. In the atmosphere, you only have, about 1% supersaturation of water vapor. So therefore, the conditions is slightly different. So it's not exactly the same, but there are some similarities, absolutely. And one of the problems is that, as you say, it's experiments, and you have so you have very controlled conditions which you don't have in the real atmosphere. That's why I mentioned that we had these focus decreases where we have the natural changes in cosmic rays. And these have shown to be, quite remarkable to extract information from. I mean, we can even see, spatially that, if the focus decrease is happening, when it's summer in the southern hemisphere, we can see that the effect is absolutely largest in the southern hemisphere, exactly as we would expect even from simulation. So I think that that's why I said that it seems to be converging towards a very good understanding. Now, I do see that many people think that. I'm told over and over again by people that the theory that I'm working on has been debunked, that it has no effect whatsoever. But it's simply not true. At some point, I think it should be taken into consideration. So that should come at some point.
You, Henrik, you are at an age where if you wanted to, you could retire. You could you could leave the field of battle, enjoy other things in life. Are you actively seeking to continue your research? And if so, have you had any feelers out? I mean, feelers to you?
Yeah. I mean, it sort of didn't come as a surprise, and I have been trying to figure out, a way out if something happened, and I'm most likely going to have a connection to near Lviv's university in at least for a couple of years, so I can finish, as much as possible. Hopefully the research will continue. The problem is I have to find some financing, but that's the eternal problem when you do research.
Henrik, so you were at DTU for about 30 years. When was the first time in your career that you discovered that your climate research was considered controversial? When did you start getting pushback on that stuff?
Well, I did this work. I was hired at the Danish Meteorological Institute, and in my spare time, I thought about why solar activity could affect the climate. So that was the first time I got this idea that it might be clouds and it might be cosmic rays, again, because of this cloud chamber idea that I saw in high school. And then I got the data, and it looks very nice with the correlation. So there seems to be a correlation with the solar cycle at that time. And it's just a correlation. But it was then presented at a conference in Birmingham in 1996. And a newspaper, actually the same newspaper that has written about my firing, they said that it was it was something that could overturn, global warming or something like that. And it gave such a large media response that I was completely unprepared for the change. I mean, the things that have been done in the past, nobody was interested in it. But here, all of a sudden, it gave an enormous media. I remember coming back to Denmark from the conference, and the headline in one of the Danish newspapers was "Strong UN Critique of Danish Researchers." And that was the the former chairman of the IPCC, Bernd Bolin, who said that what we had done was naive and irresponsible. So I was sort of baptized into climate science as a as being in opposition to nearly everything. And it took me some time to figure out and to sort of to relax into that situation, because I mean, I was completely naive. I had no idea that, I knew very little about CO2 and climate change. And it's not something I'm particularly interested in, CO2 and climate change, because I don't think it's very interesting as such. It's not something I would use my career at for sure. But ever since that time, I have been in opposition, and my name has been a problem. I was one of the founders of the Cloud project in CERN in Geneva. And at some point, the people that got into the project, there was more and more people from atmospheric science, and they started getting worried about having a person like me in the project, because they were afraid that they couldn't get funding if I was part of it. So I was actually thrown out of the Cloud project. Yeah.
Well, Henrik, you say that you're not that interested in CO2. Unfortunately, CO2 is very interested in you, and that was a problem during your career. I'm actually curious as to, what you've described to me is somebody who from very early on in his scientific academic career has been basically under attack or undermined and vilified right from the very beginning. How many of your colleagues at your former university place of employment have experienced something similar where they're constantly being undermined and criticized? Do you have any peers in that regard?
I mean, I'm quite alone in that respect. I had some people that I've been working with, some colleagues, and some of them have had. One of them got fired in 2021 when they tried to fire me, but then he got hired by another group. So he's still at the university, and I've still been working with him. This is Martin Enghoff, one of my colleagues. But there are other, it's been a problem because, if I had some students coming and they wanted to do a project with me, in some cases they told me that they can't, do the project because they've just been told that if they work with me, it will be really bad for their career. So they can't work with me, and I think it's true in the sense I'm really reluctant in order to take in young people because I was reluctant because it would not be good for their career unless they wanted to do something completely different from science. So and there's another thing. You have people who are very hostile to this type of research, but there's a lot of self-censorship. A young person cannot go into this field because it would ruin his career. So you can't do it. The good thing for me is that then I've had the field for myself. If it was a popular field, all of a sudden I would not have been able to make all the discoveries. I would just have maybe been able to initiate it, but many of the discoveries would not have been for me. So there are some good things. That's what I really have to take some comfort in.
Yeah. Well, look, you just said it there, Henrik, that you were depending on private funding for your research at DTU for the last several years. You are now still seeking private. You could use some private support to continue your research.
Yes.
We're not going to give out your personal contact information here on this program, But this program and the people that are hosting it are not hard to find. We're all have public emails. If you are interested in supporting real science by a real scientist who, you can come through the Heartland Institute, and when we find good information, we will get that to Henrik to make sure that we're doing our part to make sure that you can continue. So, because this is a complete outrage, we're having a little bit of fun with it, but it's outrageous. And I think one of the worst parts of this is what you've just said there near the end. And we've hosted 16 international conferences on climate change as the Heartland Institute. I know you've spoken at least one. And one of the frustrations, one of the laments of many of the scientists is exactly what you said, that young people who have an interest in having a long career are not going to be working very closely with people like you who are under constant attack by their universities, because that is a death sentence for their career. And that's not how science and academia should work, but unfortunately it's too common.
No, it's. We have some ideals, but it's done by people, and people are doing bad things, unfortunately.
But we at the Robinson Center will continue to be in contact with you, Henrik, and
okay, thank you.
And we'll see if we can't help get some of your work and ideas out there.
That would be great.
Right.
Thank you.
All right. Well, let's move on to let's have a little bit more fun on this show. This show is supposed to be fun. That's a big part of the show. But I've titled the next item "No More Summer Fun." I'm killing myself here. Anyway, this comes from NPR, and it's kind of funny actually. The headline is "Climate Change is Now Threatening a Pillar of Childhood: Summer Break." I'm going to read a little bit of this for you, as NPR is wont to do. They like to paint a picture. On a beautiful summer day in July, 7-year-old Penelope is turning into a mermaid. "I like playing mermaid," she says, with her feet dangling in the swimming pool at Beauvoir Summer Camp in Washington, D.C. "Like I'm a human, and then I turn into a mermaid, and I use one of the pool noodles as a dolphin, and I play with my friends," she says. How sweet. Penelope and her best friend Sam, also 7, say pool time is their favorite activity at this camp. But the pool was empty during the last free swim. Campers spent the day indoors to avoid hazardous air quality from wildfire smoke. And earlier in the summer, the heat forced them to cut down their outside playtime, says Drew McKay, director of the summer camp. This summer has brought no shortage of extreme weather and wildfires across the country. In northern Minnesota and Canada, fires devastated communities and caused dangerous smoke to blanket large swaths of the Midwest and northeastern United States. Deadly floods prompted disaster declarations in parts of Texas, and an extreme heat wave in July was dubbed the new normal for 4th of July celebrations. As the climate warms due in large part to burning fossil fuels, not true. Research shows that heat waves, droughts, hurricanes, and floods have become more intense and more frequent, also not true. Families are feeling it. Further north in Pennsylvania, Lauren Smith and her kids have had a summer full of dangerous weather. First, it was the extreme heat that disrupted the normal activities at a soccer camp, with temperatures reaching almost 100 degrees on a big treeless field. Then, wildfire smoke kept the family in the house. When the nonstop rain hit, it was almost a blessing. With weather conditions that make outdoor fun not just impossible, but dangerous, parents, summer camp leaders, and school-age kids told NPR how they are experiencing the effects of the changing climate. Quote, "It's changed my summer a lot," said Penelope the mermaid. She describes climate change as, quote, "The areas around you are just like changing all around you all the time," unquote. How did a 7-year-old already know that the climate change is making weather worse around you all the time? Anthony, let's go with you. You flagged this for us this week. Is this climate change, or is this summer just like all the rest?
Well, I think what I'll do here is I will channel the Beach Boys and say it'll be fun, fun, fun until climate takes the T-bird away.
Well done. That was a long read. I knew you'd have something for us.
Well, it's nuts. This whole thing is nuts. We have an article up on Climate Realism today talking about it. And, this whole article is just a bunch of anecdotes and opinions and some obvious output from some brainwashing of children, where this one kid just simply says, well, everything's changing all around me all the time, and blaming it on climate change. I mean, it has to be the adults that basically said, well, all the weather is climate now. They can't seem to get past that. It's really sad because, we did a few weeks ago, we talked about the damages that have been done by like the models, RCP 8.5, and the disaster scenarios that this thing put out for the future. And these disaster scenarios have given a lot of children no hope for the future. And so now they're taking summer away, just by simply making a story about it. I mean, it's just sad. It's sad and depressing that the media has stooped to this sort of nonsense and engaging children in, the idea that their summers are no longer going to be fun. I mean, it's borderline child abuse, in my opinion.
One of the things that Anthony points out in his article is that summer's experienced differently in different regions. It's hotter than winter, almost, probably everywhere. But a Texas summer or an Arizona summer always has been very different from a Minnesota or a Wisconsin or a British Columbian summer. People adjust. When it was probably 78, 79 here in Texas. We had 50 straight days of over 100 temperatures and 60 with no rain. The ground opened into huge cracks. And that was when the earth was cooler and people were warning of the next ice age. The point is, it's always been dangerous. Kids die every year, not just in Texas, but I suspect other places, when they start up preseason football camps, and they're out there doing their drills and their exercises. And it's tragic, and we can try and avoid it with better hydration, but it's not climate change. And wildfires aren't climate change. You look at data and you look at trends, and the trends don't show increasing wildfires as CO2 goes up or as fossil fuel use goes up. It just doesn't correspond. Nor is, droughts getting worse, nor are extreme heat days during the summer getting worse. In fact, there has been a decline. What you're having is more nighttime. The temperature's rising slightly at nighttime lows, but no one's out there practicing during the night. So it is ridiculous for them to claim that climate change is causing damage to kids' summer. But the thing that's really causing damage to kids' summer, as far as I can tell, is the fact that they spend so much time indoors on their various platforms, their Kindles, their computer games. They haven't been out exercising for a long time anyway. I would guess that could be a shock to the system.
Yeah, well, that and also scaring the hell out of them about climate change and making them think that the world's going to end. Henrik, how has the summer been in Denmark this summer? Is there any reason to panic and think that you're going to burn up soon?
No, it's been nice and warm. So it's been summer. Is it nothing? I mean,
you can't get funding by just calling it summer, Henrik. Come on, you got to help us out.
Yeah, but there's nothing. I don't think there's anything unusual about it as such. I know everybody's talking about that. It's been too hot this summer, and I was in Germany. It was almost 40 degrees, but it only lasted a few days, so that was okay. I also understand that in France they have had a lot of wildfires, but they also arrested about 240 something persons who have been initiating the wildfires. So it's arson, many of these wildfires.
Yeah,
So,
It's I just saw something the other day that it's the lowest number of wildfires in Europe on record.
probably,
One of the things that really bothers me, that's bothered me all summer during this so-called heat wave that we're suffering. Parts of Europe have suffered a heat wave. There's no question about that. And parts of America have suffered higher than average temperatures for days. But you know what? America and Europe are not the world.
No.
They are not the world. And South America and Antarctica, huge continent, are suffering record-setting cold and snow and temperatures far below average. Even parts of Alaska just got snow last week or earlier this week, inches of snow. That's not supposed to be happening during the late summer. So no one's talking about these places where it's cooler than average. And if it is cooler than average, are we going to blame climate change for that too? If so, it balances out. I don't know what to say. All I know is the media focuses on one thing. They're like a dog with a bone. They worry it to death, and they don't focus on anything that's not that particular bone. In this case, all the cold temperatures, all the snow that are blocking people in South America at resorts. 200 cars abandoned because of snow. They're having to truck them out with emergency vehicles, and no one's talking about it.
Yeah. Linnea, close us out.
Yeah, I mean, it's human beings are bad at reflecting on like the context of the temperatures that they're currently dealing with. If it's hot, it's the hottest you've ever felt, unless you had something really remarkable previously. Last summer here in South Carolina was fairly mild compared to a couple years ago when it was really hot. And then this summer has been hot again, kind of back to usual. It's that muggy July, August weather where you don't even want to go to the beach really, because the beach, the Atlantic is also like 80 degrees and it's just not even refreshing to get in the water. And, it's all anyone talks about, of course, is how hot and how uncomfortable they are and stuff. But then you remind them, yeah, well, and I'm sure, it feels even worse because last year was so mild comparatively, at least where I live. And then they'll go, oh yeah, it was pretty mild. I kept waiting for when it was going to be in the 90s and it didn't feel like it ever hit for very long. And this summer has been in the 90s like all summer. So it's the weather. It changes. And we're just because, I don't know, the way our brains work or something, we tend to exaggerate everything that we feel. And it doesn't help at all, of course, that the media latches onto it.
Yep. 100%. All right, let's move on to
Dr. Svensmark,
sorry.
What you really need to do if you need more funding is you need to come out with a press release that says cosmic rays cause more deadly heat waves. You'll be all set.
Yes. But
then you would be lying. That's not
of course it would, but I'm just channeling what the rest of the climate community does on a daily basis.
That is true. All right. Our next item here as we run down the crazy climate news of the week, I've titled this Wind Farms Helping Real Farms. This comes from a publication called The Pulse. The headline is Farmers placed a wind turbine in a cornfield and discovered it was changing the crops by unexpectedly drying dew. During a recent heat wave when temperatures reached past 100 degrees, corn crops faced severe heat stress. Yet researchers studying one commercial wind farm noticed an exception. The corn crops around a wind turbine were coping with the heat much better than other farms. What difference was the turbine making? Monitoring the site were agricultural meteorology experts from Ames Laboratory and the University of Colorado. Using LiDAR lasers and anemometers, the team mapped the air movement and temperature variations across the Iowa corn and soybean fields. The instruments picked up a column of disturbed air for a quarter mile downwind from the turbine. In normal conditions, the sun warms the plants, and this heat radiates upward into still air. Here, the movement of air accelerated the exchange of heat between the leaves and the lower atmosphere. Temperatures in the daytime were lower as cooler air was brought in. The research team visited the site at dawn, realizing that the effect of the disruption in the atmosphere continued throughout the night. The mixing of the lower layers of air meant that warmer air was drawn to the surface. The result was a reduced risk of frost, which is an important protection factor. The inspections also showed a marked difference in morning moisture levels, which was important. The dew that usually clings to corn leaves was recorded to be evaporating a lot faster in the turbine's wake. Lingering moisture on plant leaves gives fungal pathogens and leaf toxins time to take root. But by drying the foliage quickly, the breeze reduced these risks while cutting the cost farmers pay for artificial drying after harvesting is complete. The airflow was also altering how the plants absorbed nutrients. Corn requires a steady supply of carbon dioxide to grow, and this was facilitated directly through the plants with the moving air. Sterling, I want to start here with you after that bit of a setup. We're often critical, my reaction to this is that we're often critical of the expansion of wind installations across the country, blighting the landscape, but perhaps this is a case where putting windmills on cornfields might actually be a good thing?
Only if you ignore every other bad thing that they do. If you take this one thing in isolation, and if it's true, because I've seen multiple studies over years that don't look at one facility and one cornfield, that finds the typical impact of turbines, maybe not hundreds of yards downfield, but in the immediate area, is a drying of the soil. So there's less soil moisture, which isn't good for corn or any other crop. Concerning dew, okay, well, I guess if dew stays on the underside of plants for long periods of time, that could tend to form a fungus. Yet, it's in my experience, actually going into cornfields, dew doesn't stay on those plants very long after the morning sun rises. It dries out, or it drips off into the soil. So that's part of the soil moisture. So I'm unconvinced this is a new, we finally found a justification for wind farms. They're expensive. They kill birds and bats. They have to be subsidized. They make the grid less reliable. And I would wager that if you balance the supposed impacts of the drying of the moisture on the underside of the leaves, the dew, compared to the impact on the soil moisture, they're of net harm to crops overall, despite what this one field and one study may say, because that's what the other studies have said.
I've got nothing to add to that, Sterling. I think you pretty much killed it. It's the same with any industrial facility. I mean, there's always going to be something, especially when it comes to a wind turbine where you have, there's a downstream air effect and stuff. There have been studies, I believe, in the North Sea looking at the effect on like downstream weather patterns and stuff from the big turbine fields offshore. And there's definitely an effect because the energy in the wind that it takes to turn a turbine gets taken out of the wind, when it turns the turbine. So there is a braking effect of the wind by these devices. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised at all if the effects that they're talking about are real. And like Sterling said, the effect of drying out the soil is the same effect that they're talking about in this article. They're just not mentioning the soil part. They're just saying, look, it's a fungicide or whatever, not a fungicide, but it helps to reduce, different types of moisture related funguses and mildews or whatever on crops, like how greenhouses will have an air current in order to do the same thing. But they don't, as far as I saw in the clips that we got there, they're not talking about the potential downsides there. So
look, it just a few other negatives, right? It takes about 5% of a field's growth, useful land out of production. And if you use aerial spraying, it used to be pretty common. I don't see crop dusters much anymore, but then I don't spend a lot of time in farm country anymore. If you use crop dusters, it can scatter your pesticides and fertilizers, and B, it creates a pretty much look. If I'm a crop duster, I don't want to be flying through a field of wind turbines. Even if they're spaced pretty far apart. If you've ever seen how crop dusters work, they don't fly high; they fly very low to the ground. and you got to pull up and pull out and turn on a dime. And I would think that this would create a hazard for crop dusters. Now, as Linnea said, and I think I said it the first, there are benefits to wind turbines. Look, the farmers are making a mint. They're getting their payments. The wind operators are reaping the benefits of huge subsidies and higher energy costs that they pull off the market. You know, the profit, the elite market socialist profiteers. So it's not that there are no good things flowing from wind. It's just, I would argue that the bad almost always outweighs the good. A small group of people benefits a lot, and the general public has higher food cost and less wildlife and less open land.
Yeah. Well, you know, so that story that we just covered, you know, was all about the downstream effects of wind turbines in corn and soybean fields. You know, many people trade in corn and soybean futures, but that can be pretty risky, too risky for many investors. But there is an investment that is not risky, and in fact, it's a hedge against risk, and that is an investment in precious metals, which is why I want to tell you about the sponsor of the Climate Realism Show, and that is Advisor Metals.
Jim, that was a corny segue.
There you go. You know, if you listen to a lot of conservative shows or listen to this show every single week, you hear lots of pitches for buying gold and silver and other precious metals. And there are a ton of companies that can do that for you. But I want to tell you why you need to trust our sponsor, Advisor Metals. And that's the man who runs that company. And his name is Ira Brzezinski. Ira is the managing member of Advisor Metals. He doesn't get into all those high pressure and deceptive marketing tactics like you see in big gold. He also doesn't deal in rare coins, which you probably have no interest in. When you buy gold and other precious metals from Advisor Metals, you are dealing in quality bullion. And that is so much better when it comes time to liquidate this very valuable physical asset. And when you buy from Advisor Metals, you're going to have that investment sent directly and discreetly to your home, so you can put it right there in your safe. Ira, by the way, is advertising on this program with the Heartland Institute and the Climate Realism Show because he is an America First patriot. Doesn't mean he doesn't like Denmark, but he does love America. He does not donate to Democrats. He refuses to work with proxies of the Chinese Communist Party. And he, like us, abhor the machinations of outfits like the World Economic Forum. That is one of the many reasons why we are very proud to have him as a sponsor. So if you want to diversify your investment portfolio, if you want to back up your IRA with real physical bullion of precious metals, you need to go to climaterealismshow.com/metals. You can leave your information there, and Ira will be in contact and make the process so very easy for you. Again, it's climaterealismshow.com/metals, and be sure to tell them who sent you, and that is us, because that helps this show while you're also helping your financial future. All right. Even Henrik had to smile at that segue. I love it. All right. Yes, I'm trying to give Linnea a run for her money. It's a big competition we have going on back and forth. I think I did myself pretty well there.
That was the best yet. That was the best yet.
I thought it was going to be my best yet. Had to think of it. All right. Thank you very much. And speaking of comedy, so before we get into the Q&A section today, this was shared in a group of climate realists that I message with here and there. This is a pretty funny video. It's 3 minutes long. We normally don't play videos this long, but this is definitely worth it. This comes from an account called Artificial Idiots, and they do AI videos of comedy. And this is a very funny comedy video, I think, about net zero in Britain. So let's have a watch.
Tonight we're going to be investigating net zero, a bold government plan that aims to save the planet by drastically cutting carbon emissions. But do the British public believe in a cleaner, greener future? Or is it just another crazy idea destined for failure? We sent our reporters around the country to find out more. What do you think of net zero and the government's energy policy, sir?
a load of bollocks, that's what I think.
Any thoughts on net zero?
It's so important if we want to save the planet, and if my granny has got to freeze to death because she can't afford to put the heating on, then so be it. I'm currently joined by Officer Longcock, and I believe what we're standing on now is the newest submarine to join the Royal Navy fleet. Can you tell me what's so special about it?
HMS Sunshine is the world's first solar-powered submarine. It cost £400 billion to develop, and it really is one of a kind.
Have you encountered any problems with it yet?
Well, obviously the solar panels don't work underwater, and we can only store enough power to keep us moving for 15 minutes at a time. So, unfortunately, we do have to keep resurfacing for a minimum of 24 hours to recharge the batteries, which isn't exactly ideal.
I've now been joined by Ted Willihan, who is Secretary of State for Energy Security and Net Zero.
Hi, Jenna, and a big hello to all the peasants watching at home.
Ted, is it true you want to replace all the farmland and cows behind us and fill all this area with large solar farms instead?
Farming isn't good for the environment, and cows cause too much pollution with their farts, so
Yes.
solar farms are the answer.
What do British farmers think of this?
Farmers fully support me, and they think I'm doing a great job. Solar is the future of farmland. You don't have to get up at 4 a.m. to milk a solar panel.
Willie Hand, you wanker! Get off my land!
How do you feel about Britain having the highest energy bills in the world?
It's ridiculous. It's that bad. I've started sleeping with my husband again just to warm me up for 2 minutes.
Thoughts on net zero?
It's not good. No meat, no dairy, no holidays and no money. They should just reopen the coal mines and stop worrying about windmills and cow farts.
Ted, I think that farmer spoke for everyone in Britain right now who are struggling to afford their energy bills. What do you say to those people?
If I was them, I'd just get a higher paying job. For example, if you're earning minimum wage, just get a job on £50 an hour instead, and that will make bills much more affordable.
But why are energy prices going up?
Well, that's just not true. If you look at this chart here, you can see energy prices are actually going down.
I'm pretty sure that graph is upside down, Ted.
Oh, yes, it is. My mistake. Well spotted.
What about pensioners who can't work? We heard a story last week about an 80-year-old woman who was wearing 3 jumpers and 2 coats and was still cold. What do you say to her, Mr. Willihan?
I would suggest that maybe she should consider wearing 4 jumpers and 3 coats instead. Either that, or perhaps she could just visit Benidorm for a few months during winter.
I think that farmer was right, Ted. You really are a wanker, aren't you? Anyway, it's time to check back in with our reporters out on the streets.
Do you agree with net zero? No, I honestly don't give a shit about all that stuff. Bring on global warming. I think I speak for everyone when I say this country could do with being a bit hotter.
Is there any reason you haven't bought an electric car yet, sir?
Yeah, do you see that block of flats behind us? I live on the top floor. I'm going to need a bloody long charger, aren't I?
Would I be right in assuming you've got an electric car, Mr. Willihan?
No, I don't want one. I prefer my Range Rover, to be honest.
Oh, OK. Have you considered possibly planting more trees to offset carbon emissions?
Yes, I did consider it, as it could work, but it's very difficult to profit from it.
Right, then I think we've covered everything now. Let's wrap this up. I've been Generator, and this prick has been Ted Willihan. Thanks for watching. Good night.
That was gold.
Wow. I apologize for a couple of swear words in there. It was a little blue, but not that blue.
The British get a lot of things wrong nowadays, and they're going downhill. But their comedy is still dry, biting, and among the best.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
indeed.
I mean, Linnea, we talk a lot about the dangers
of
of
appearance from Mr. Bean.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish Monty Python's would take on net zero.
Yeah, I mean, Linnea, we talk a lot about the dangers of AI on the In the Tank show on Thursdays at this very same time every Thursday. But some good can come out of it too, and there's no better path of opposition really than mockery, and that's classic.
Yeah, well, this is goofy, silly things are what generative AI are for. that's their best use case, so I'm happy with it.
All right. Well, I know we have a lot of questions for Henrik, so I'm glad we all enjoyed that. I know the audience, the chat was going crazy for it, so thank you all for that. But let's get to the important and favorite part of this program every week, and that's Q&A. Take it away, Linnea.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you, Andy. Whoever it is that did that. Yeah, so apologies for my bad lighting. All of a sudden, my lamp just went out, so that's cool, I guess. I'm going to prioritize the questions for Dr. Svensmark. We will try to get to most of those first. So first question from Tech here is the lower stratosphere still cooling?
I must say I'm not quite sure whether it's still cooling. It has been cooling for quite a while, but I don't know. Some of the other people here probably knows that better than I.
Anthony?
I honestly don't know either. I have not been tracking it. I know the lower troposphere is warming, but as far as the lower stratosphere, I just don't know.
Alrighty, cool. Okay, Scott Clay asks, were you fired because they were afraid your research would end up killing the goose that lays their golden eggs?
That's a good question. I mean, I don't have a real answer, exactly what is happening, but there's no doubt that if solar activity has been really important, it might mean that the climate sensitivity to CO2 would be smaller. There's a lot of evidence for that is the case, and so it might be that CO2 is less of a problem, and if it's not a problem, it's very difficult to get the golden eggs out of it.
Very true. All right. This is a great, interesting question from David, who says, Dr. Henrik, who owns your data? Will you be able to take your research with you?
That's a good question. I have all my data. I mean, all the digital data. I already make sure that I got that. But I mean, I actually over more than 10 years built a large laboratory where we could make these very unique experiments. And it's a completely unique setup that we made. And I was, when I got fired, I was no longer allowed to go into the laboratory. So they have confiscated the whole laboratory from me. And a lot of it was actually from private. For instance, a mass spectrometer was given to us. It cost almost 4 million Danish kroner. So that's maybe $600,000 or something like that. So very expensive things has been given to the group, and it's now taken away from us. Or from me. So I'm not getting everything with me.
Yeah. Alrighty. We are going to find you your own mass spectrometer. We'll get you a warehouse to put it in. All right. Let's see. A lot of people have questions about Nir Shaviv. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Several people have asked.
Well, yeah. I mean, Nir Shaviv, he did this work with the idea that as the solar system is moving around the galaxy, you go in and out of, more or less cosmic rays, and that fit very beautifully with when you have glaciations on the Earth. And I contacted him right after he did this work, and for 1 or 2 years, we were sort of competing about certain things. And then we decided that there's no reason to, chase each other's tails. So we have been working, together ever since. So Nir Shaviv is one of my closest collaborators.
Excellent. I'm sure that a lot of our audience will be glad to hear that, because we do have a lot of questions about it. So apologies to audience members who asked about it, and I did not get to your particular question, but we do have a question from Scott asking if Nir has been persecuted the way you have for his research.
No, not in the same way, because in Israel they have global warming is not a big thing. They have real problems in Israel, and so they don't really care that much about Nir Shaviv. I mean, they're much more relaxed about these things.
Alrighty. This might kind of be a question for our producers here. Above Us Only Sky asks if we can get the graph showing the correlation between variations in cosmic ray flux and change in sea temperatures. I'm not sure if we can. We'll see if. Well, I guess we'll set somebody to looking for that graph, and then.
Yeah, I of course have a graph of that, but yeah.
Alrighty.
And it's a beautiful correlation.
Jim, you're muted if you're talking.
Oh, I was just saying, Henrik, if you can put it, if there's a URL, if it's out there publicly, if you want to paste that link into the private chat, maybe we can pull it up on screen.
I don't have a URL.
Oh.
I don't think so. So I have it in a PowerPoint. So
I don't know if the audience is allowed to post URLs or not, but one of you guys might, someone in the audience might have it as well. All right. Well, we'll save this question for later and we'll see if we can't find it. All right. Chris asks, I have heard solar cycles being mentioned. So do solar cycles affect the cosmic rays hitting the Earth?
Yes. I mean, cosmic rays are charged particles, so they are very, they can be affected by magnetic fields. And when you have the solar wind going out, it's actually carrying the sun's magnetic field. And when you have a high solar activity, you have a better screening against the cosmic rays that comes outside from our solar system. So it might changes, quite a lot between solar maximum and solar minimum. So when you have solar minimum, the sun is not so effective of screening against the cosmic rays. So you can have these maybe 30% changes in cosmic rays that are hitting the Earth over a solar cycle.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Alrighty. Jason has a question for me, which is, does Linnea feel the same as she nodded when Henrik said about not working with him would ruin, about working with him would ruin, like a young scientist's career? I was nodding because I've heard of similar things at universities all the time, across different areas of science too. There are just persona non grata in different areas that either don't take and don't seek out graduate students to mentor anymore because they just know that they'll just never be able to get a job. It is an extremely toxic environment these days.
It can be, especially in this field, but of course in other fields where there's no political interest, you might be able to have a good time.
Yeah. Yes.
If I could ask, so you have said that, you don't have really any colleagues that you've worked with, but I guess until he passed away, didn't you work with Egil Frisk Christensen? I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Yes, I initially started my first paper with Egil Frisk Christensen. He was at that time, he became the director of the Danish Space Institute. And he was a very important person for me because he had the position where he could sort of protect me against many of the attacks that came, and he actually really helped me in the beginning. Unfortunately, he died a few years ago, but he was certainly an important person.
We have this nice comment from Doug who says, thank you for bringing Henrik onto the show. He's a great man and scientist, only wanting truth to prevail. So you've definitely got fans in our audience.
Thank you. That's very kind.
Let's see. Mr. Johansson here says, question, in some of your papers, there is another author who is Jacob Svensmark. Is that your son? And will he be continuing the same research?
That is actually my son. It's difficult to find someone to work with. And Jakob, he started working with me when he was about 16 years old. And then we tried to get him, be able to continue, and he applied in order to continue the research. But the usual problem, couldn't get any funding whatsoever to continue, and he's now, I think half a year ago, he started working as a math teacher in a high school. So,
very cruel of you to have ended your son's scientific career before it could even get started.
Exactly.
Put him on your paper.
Well, when he said to me he wanted to go into science and study physics, I said to him it's a really, really bad idea because it will be very difficult to get a job. And so he actually signed up for university without telling me.
I'm glad to hear. He seems
and
very
he has been extremely very, very good at doing science and very, very solid work. And he did some really great work on some of these things. So I think it's a shame that he couldn't continue.
Absolutely. All right. I've got a question for Anthony here from Darren and Loki, who asks, did the Godzilla El Nino contribute to the heat wave this summer? If so, can we make a King Kong La Nina to combat it? Your mic isn't on, or you're muted in some way, Anthony.
Sorry. I had a cough earlier. I can't honestly tell you whether the Godzilla El Nino contributed to the heat wave this summer. My general view is probably not, because these were localized things, particular blocking highs and things like that created heat domes. And one thing that, they say El Nino in the scientific literature tends to make more extreme weather. And we have observed that through time. But whether it makes any specific extreme weather is a question that is unanswered. It had the tendency to increase it in general, but a link directly between El Nino and this specific weather event, who knows?
We should just ask the people at World Weather Attribution. I'm sure they can tie it to climate change.
Oh yeah, probably within about 45 minutes they'll have a complete answer.
Yeah.
With certainty. That they'll, with very, very wide certainty bars that they will uncertainty bars that they will bury in their press release.
Between a 2 and 70% chance that this happened, but for climate change.
Man, I saw the one when they were talking about the rainfall in Nigeria. Yeah, the rains down in Africa. They were that's a you joke, Anthony. They're like error bars on one of the things that they were measuring was between 2 and like 30% or something like that. 2 and 27% something. It's so silly. All right, let's go. All right, we've got a question from Albert, who says, would the incredible increase in satellites burning up in Earth's atmosphere add to the amount of droplet nucleation potential?
No, I think that is simply too small to have an effect. We also have meteoric dust coming in, so it's not really changing the number of cloud condensation nuclei. So it's not important.
Yep. Alrighty. We've got I want to bring this up real quick from Engineer Guy, who's a longtime friend of the Heartland Institute, who's asking, how are we doing on hurricane numbers so far? July is now over, going into August or September predictions. I don't know. NOAA should be putting out their forecast, but they've been spot on so far this year. They said it was going to be a below average year, and it's definitely been very, very quiet in the Atlantic. So let's go. Jay Wester, I guess this is a Jim question. Would it be possible to create crowdfunding for Henrik's research, maybe directly on the Heartland Institute website?
That's a very promising idea. We will look into it. I was going to mention at the wrap up of the show, which is coming here pretty soon, that I'm not hard to find. Go to heartland.org. I'm not hard to find. My email is public, so you can find that. So anybody who's interested in supporting Henrik's continued work, especially he was right in the middle of an experiment when he got pulled, so he probably used a little funding. Yeah, you can contact the people on this show. We'll find a way to make it happen if we can.
Thank you.
All righty, let's go. Where are my questions? Okay, let's see. Okay, here's one from Chris who says, how much do cosmic rays vary by as we sail through space? So I guess that by is probably just a edit, like a typo. But how much do cosmic rays vary as we sail through space?
Well, I mean, we are sort of shielded against cosmic rays by several things. We have the Earth's atmosphere, and we have the Earth's magnetic field. Then we have the sun's solar wind. And then if you go outside the solar system, I mean, you would have a more or less constant, but it will probably be maybe 1 or 2 times, larger than what we have here on Earth. So it varies quite a lot, but we are shielded against cosmic rays, and it's a good thing, I guess, because it means that we are not getting as much radiation. I mean, if people will want to live on Mars, for instance, the planet Mars, it doesn't really have a magnetic field, and the atmosphere is extremely thin. So there you would give a much higher radiation dose than what you get here on the surface of the Earth. So that will be a problem if you want to settle on Mars. You have to solve that problem.
All right. Kind of a follow-up question to that issue is from Tech, are there more cosmic rays as we approach the galactic plane, or more as we move above, below, or away from the galactic plane?
Yes. The reason is that most of the large stars are produced very close to the midplane of the galactic plane, and so that's also where you have most of the cosmic rays, the sources of cosmic rays. That means that you will see a decay as you move up in the galactic plane. And it's really interesting because the solar system, as it moves around the galactic center, it's actually also, like a delphin, or what we call it. It moves up and down through the plane a little bit, and therefore there is a significant change in the cosmic rays, and you can actually see that very, very beautifully in the climate data of the Earth, which is it follows this very, very, very nice. So yes, there is a big change as you move in and out of the galactic plane.
We have people just love the technical discussion. It's been a little bit since we had a really data and theory heavy episode. So thank you so much for doing this, Doctor. We have another question for you about your equipment, asking what kind of mass spectrometer for that cost. I'm thinking a QTOF or something else. Gas or liquid phase?
Yeah, it is a time of flight mass spectrometer, and it has a chemical ionizer in front of it. So it's a rather special thing. And the reason is that we wanted to measure sulfuric acid, and sulfuric acid is actually one of the most important molecules for clumping together. It's like the super glue of the atmosphere, and that's really what makes the aerosols. So in order to measure extremely small concentrations of sulfuric acid, we had to have such a mass spectrometer, and that's also why it was so expensive.
And this is something I was wondering too, how much actually can astronauts shield themselves from cosmic radiation, and does it play any role in the lunar surface, which is a question from B.H. Bailey.
I mean, it's well known that if the moonwalks had been done at time where we had some of the very, very last flares on the sun, it could have been life-threatening. So it is very difficult to shield against this type of radiation. It's also interesting, if you are inside a spaceship, if you make the walls too thick, you might produce a lot of secondary particles, and therefore you actually get more radiation than if you didn't have the shield. So there's a trade-off in that sense.
It's a whole lot of stuff to account for. It's kind of amazing that we live on this little bubble habitat in the middle of a very hostile universe.
Oh, yes.
Let's see. I think this can be a question to Sterling. It can be a question to Henrik. It can be a question to everybody who wants to chime in on this, which is from Ulterior Ultra, who says, instead of spending trillions on a hoax, why aren't we spending it preparing for coronal mass ejections?
Well, I will point out we just had a big one just a few minutes ago that has been released by the Sun. So we'll get to live that experiment in real time today.
Yeah.
And I guess my suggestion is we have a lot. Look, the world has finite resources. And everything we let the government redirect away from market choices or from entrepreneurs operating in the market, trying to satisfy needs here and now, not theoretical needs in the future, or things that we have very little control over. We are leaving people that we could otherwise get out of poverty, that we could otherwise feed, that we could otherwise house. We're leaving them impoverished when we don't have to. We're adding to unnecessarily to death. So rather than even coronal mass injections, I'd like to take big government out of science. And if you have agencies that are supposed to take care of poverty, that's what they should be doing, not fighting climate change. If you've got agencies that are supposed to help food production, that's what they should be doing, not fighting climate change or coronal mass ejections. I want to focus on real world problems that we face today. Let's get rid of mosquitoes that carry malaria. We can do it. Let's transport food from where it's grown to where it's needed. We can do it, but we're not doing it while we're wasting resources on more esoteric and probably less problematic issues.
Well, if we're talking about like grid hardening and stuff, they do try to do it. We're behind on so many things on our grid. It's not just hardening against, solar flare effects and things like that. It's just keeping the dang towers standing when the wind blows. So we've got a whole lot of stuff to update on our grid. And yes, we are spending trillions and trillions of dollars on the climate scam, or as our president says, the climate hoax. And although much less than we were before after the last, couple of rounds of USAID cuts and whatnot.
Hardening the grids from EMFs makes sense.
Yeah.
Because we got a lot of terrorists out there that would love to take the grid down.
Absolutely. All right. Let's see. I'm going to find one more question for us. I'm gonna try to. Oh, okay. Here's one. We're gonna be mean to climate models for the end of the show. All right. So Chris asks. Oh, there goes my dog. Did Henrik just say that no climate models have adapted to take cosmic rays into account yet?
That's true. There's not a single model that has been in a proper way included this. There are some chemical transport models where you have tried to put in, but they have a fixed meteorology, so that doesn't really count. So that's really what we want to do, and I think it's quite important to figure out, what will the result be, and it could be that cosmic rays and changes in clouds, changes in clouds has been very important for the changes in climate we have seen over maybe the last 100 years. It will shed some new light on the whole problem, and it could be quite important.
Thank you so much. I'm going to hand the show back to Jim here, and he can close us out.
All right. Yes. Thank you so much. This was such a special show. I want to thank everybody for being here on the with us today, especially our international audience that was so engaged in today's conversation. And they were so engaged because of our special guest today, Dr. Henrik Svensmark. Henrik, I want to thank you so much for being on the show. We have fans in Denmark who enjoyed you being here. We did as well, and I hope you can come back another time. And if you want to support the work, because he's been defunded and fired from his job at the university in Denmark. So if you want to support his work, I put this up there on the screen before. I think the best way to do that is working through the Heartland Institute. You can email think@heartland.org, think@heartland.org, and we will try to see if we can do something to support Henrik's work going forward. I want to thank our streaming partners, junkscience.com, CFAC, the CO2 Coalition, Climate Depot, What's Up With That, and Heartland UK Europe. I want to thank our producers behind the scenes, Silas and Andy. Thank you, Anthony Watts. Thank you, Sterling Burnett. Thank you, Linnea Lueken. And thank you again to you, the audience, who make this show so much fun. And it's why we do it every single week. We will talk to you next week. Bye-bye.